I'm sure we've all heard the phrase that time is money. But like, what do they actually mean by that? The person who's watching this video right now, I want you to answer one question very truthfully, right? And you don't even have to answer it out loud. Just answer it internally, right? Inside your own mind. But like, try your best to be as honest as possible to yourself. Do you feel like you're important? And if yes, why so? And if not, why not? Right? And I'm going to be completely honest here. This video is mostly for the people who don't feel like they're important. But for the people who actually feel like they're important as well, you will have some more pointers, and I do actually think I can provide some value to you as well. I might sound like a dickhead here, but this is absolutely necessary. For those of you who thought that you weren't important, I think you're right. And before you click off, like, allow me to elaborate. Ask yourself if this is you. You wake up every day, you have a vision of all the things that you need to get done for the day. But then as the day goes by, you find yourself getting distracted by things like Instagram, YouTube Shorts, podcasts, video game montages. And at the end of the day, you realize that you did absolutely nothing the whole day. And the thing that you needed to finish, it's still pending, right? It's still pending, and it kind of loads up for the next day. If this sounded like you, there are high chances that you are probably not that important. I don't mean to come off as like a rude person, but like, I'm not going to also sit here and lie to you and tell you that you are kind of important when you kind of don't really do anything productive the whole day, right? And I'm not even going to lie here as well. Like, complete transparency, I do not claim to be a god automatically above all the people who are watching this video. I myself, if you watched the last video, you would know I myself was a chronic time waster myself. Like 5 months or 6 months back, I myself was a chronic time waste. I used to scroll through Instagram. I used to watch mindless amounts of video game montages. I used to watch agent tips for Valorant. I used to do so many degenerate activities myself. The thing that helped me the most, which I was so happy to find out, but I was so irritated that that was the answer that I arrived on. Half the people would like kind of click off as I tell you what I found out in the first place, right? And I don't blame you, right? The answer I'm going to give you is very, very boring, but I can assure you that it works. You create a timetable. Bro, I know, fucking boring. I know, I agree with you. But like, that's what improved my life. Just following a simple routine, defining where my time goes, like having a military strict timetable, like when I wake up all the way to when I actually go to bed, it improved my mental health. My mental health didn't even improve when I went to a therapist, for God's sake. I went to a therapist. I went like 4 or 5 times to a therapist, and that did not improve my mental health. Paired with so many other things, actually following a routine helped my mental health. All the other advantages comprised of my relationships with people improving, especially my parents. Like, I did not fake a single interaction. Like, believe me when I tell you, the relationships with people naturally improves when you like start following a routine and just like start tracking your time. I know this routine and relationships do not correlate with each other, but believe me when I tell you, these are the advantages that I personally saw in my day, right? And if you want to create a timetable yourself like I did and improve your life as I did, these are the 5 things that I followed that you may find helpful as well. The first thing that you need to keep in mind when you're actually making a timetable is defining your most hardest task, your most easiest task before the day. I got this idea from this book called Eat That Frog. Maybe most of you would have heard about it. It's a very popular book. I will do a very detailed book review on that one. The book review is another series that I'm planning in the near future. But yeah, in Eat That Frog, the author tries to convey the idea that you need to sort your biggest and the most ugliest frogs, which is your biggest and the most daunting tasks, to the most smallest and the most insignificant frogs, which is the most smallest and the most insignificant tasks, right? So after you have sorted and after you have listed the most important or your most biggest task that you have to get done for the day, you focus your most productive time, which is mornings. In my opinion, like, mornings are the best time to get some work done. In the mornings, you set aside 2 to 3 hours of your time where all of your attention just focuses on this one task. Just focus on finishing this one task, after which you will probably feel like you finished like 50 to 60% of the work for the day. To be honest, for me, it's recording, right? Like, my biggest frog every single day right now is recording a video. After I record a video, to be honest, I just feel like most of my work for the day has been done, and I get a little complacent, which I probably need to work on. But yeah, sort your frogs from your biggest to your smallest and the most insignificant frogs. Like sort your work from your biggest and the most daunting ones to your most smallest and the most insignificant ones, and focus all your energy into finishing the first task. All your energy and time into finishing the first task before you actually move on to the second task which you listed before the day starts, right? The work you have to sort out in the timetable a day prior to your actual day, right? I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. First thing that you need to include in your timetable is actually sort your tasks from your biggest and the most daunting ones to your smallest and the most insignificant ones. The second thing that you need to include in your timetable is have a day routine and a night routine. And this is something I'm very, very particular about. Like, you need to have a day routine and a night routine. Day routines are like somewhat advertised in mainstream media, right? It's day routines are good and blah blah blah. Like, it is actually good, and I agree. Day routines are completely essential for you to completely wake up and generate your first win of the day, right? And actually get motivated to tackle the day ahead. But like night routines, I do not see it's getting the actual traction that it requires. And I personally think that night routines are way more important than your day routines, and I'll tell you why. Night routines are designed to restrain the chaos, which is a negative emotion, or the joy of your day, which is a positive emotion, from hindering your next day. And you guys may be wondering, like, but Madhesh, chaos and negative emotion is understandable and all, it hindering your progress for the next day. But like, how would positive emotion affect your productivity for the next day? And I'll tell you how. Being negative and all, I think it's self-explanatory, but like being positive and actually feeling joy, an overwhelming sense of joy, actually leads to complacency. And when you're extremely full of joy and when you're not able to contain your positive emotion, it can actually hinder the progress for the next day, in the sense that if everything is happy and if everything is good, you won't actually have the drive enough to finish the task at hand, to actually improve. And what did I mention in the videos prior to this, like 2 videos or 3 videos before this? I mentioned that human beings are either moving forward or moving backwards. When you are happy, you get complacent to the point where you stop moving forward and you start reaping the benefits, which is when complacency can completely like take over your life and lead to chaos, right? And it would be counterproductive for me to say that joy actually leads to chaos in some sense, but it actually does. So I believe that a balance of negative emotion and positive emotion is absolutely necessary for you to have a very fulfilling and a very happy life. So the second step that you need to do is have a night routine and a morning routine. The night routine is absolutely essential, and you should absolutely be disciplined in following the night routine. The third practice that you have to follow is actually tracking your screen time and understanding the content that you're consuming. Now, tracking your screen time on YouTube and Instagram can go a very, very long way in becoming the person that you want to be. Now, also be mindful of the content that you consume. Producing content is always better than consuming content. Now, this is another topic in which I would make a detailed video, a separate video, which I am planning in the future. But for the purposes of this video, I'll keep the content restrained to just content consuming, right? The type of content that you are consuming, you should be completely and utterly particular about it. The reason for this is, if you say, for example, if you're watching a bunch of debates, you can make an observation that you're watching these kinds of podcasts every single day, and you can actually ask yourself why you are doing it or why you are attracted to these kinds of videos. These kinds of practices would actually lead you to discover yourself in some other kind of level. Like, I cannot explain in words the kind of self-development and self-discovery that comes from actually tracking your content and knowing what you are consuming in the first place. The third thing that you need to do is track the content and track your screen time. The fourth thing that you can include in your daily routine is gratitude journaling. Now, you can include gratitude journaling either in your morning routine or your night routine. I have it included in my night routine. So yeah, the importance of gratitude journaling, it probably knows no bounds. I owe so much to the practice of gratitude journaling that it kind of puts me in this kind of an emotional state when I talk about how important just gratitude journaling is. Gratitude journaling is when the practice of you just sitting down and listing 3 things that you are grateful for. So for example, a line that you can write can be, I am grateful for my mother because she prepares the food that I get to eat every day, and so she cleans the house and takes care of the surroundings and stuff. So I'm grateful for my mother, and I'm grateful that I have this kind of a person who does all these things for me, which not every single person is lucky to have. So you should not take gratitude journaling as like a joke. So like you should not list things like I'm grateful for the fan, I'm grateful for the table and stuff. I mean, you can do that, but I don't think that's as effective as listing it in the way that I just told you. So gratitude journaling is absolutely essential in the sense that it completely protects you from the destructive feeling or the destructive emotion that is envy. When you feel envious, you start to not look inside you, rather you start to give all your attention into admiring or being jealous of other people's success or what other people have, so much to the point where you completely forget about how privileged you are to have the things that you have, right? I know personally so many people who are like so rich to the point where they can afford so many cars and stuff, and they'll still be complaining about what I have or what some other person has. It's like completely saddens me. You shouldn't be too grateful for where you are. If you are too grateful for where you are, you start to get complacent and you start to settle for what you have, and you won't actually start moving forward, or you won't have some kind of a purpose that you need to have to move forward, right? So be grateful to the point where you acknowledge the existence of what you have, but also have that hunger inside you, right, to move forward in life. Fourth thing that you can do in your day is include gratitude journaling, and include it in your morning routine or your night routine. Be strict with your timetable. You have to follow your timetable with as much discipline and as much strictness as you can. I compare this kind of strictness that you have to follow your timetable with that of a military person. Like the military person's daily routine is very, very strict, right? I do not preach this kind of extremity, in the sense that on some days there are like unavoidable circumstances where you cannot like correctly gauge where your time will go. So in those kinds of situations, it's absolutely fine. And it's also absolutely fine to trip up here and there, but you should have your main goal in mind, that your goal is to actually completely follow the ideal day that you set a day prior to the best of your ability. And the findings that you come across when you actually follow this, it's kind of very, very appalling, right? Because you teach people how to treat you. You yourself value your time so much, and this is not just you falsely value your time, right? You actually value your time so much to the point where you create a timetable of how your ideal day would be, right? When you actually value your time truly and sincerely, people also value your time. And when people value your time, people regard you as an important person, right? Because when you are regarded as this person who is not available all the time and who you have to set an appointment with and stuff, you are regarded as an important person, and people actually start to crave your presence. So the fifth thing that you need to include is, or the fifth thing rather you need to follow is, you have to be as strict as possible with your daily routine. So this is personally the 5 steps that I included in my day and that I included in my daily routine that drastically improved my life and improved my productivity, so much to the point where I did more work in the last 3 or 4 months compared to the amount of work that I did the last 2 or 3 years rather. COVID was 2020, so 2 years. This is not an understatement. I completely mean this when I say this. Like, I did more work in the last 3 months compared to how much I did the last 2 years. So that should give you a level of urgency of how useful or how effective what I preach is. If you don't believe me, you can follow it for a month and try it out for yourself and actually let me know your experience, right? If you have any objections or anything at all, leave them down in the comments, and subscribe if you want more content like this. Hopefully this video has helped you. See ya.